Hello friends, I am Dr. Kuldeep Mohadikar. In this video, I am going to present my 12th chapter from my series, Chapter from the History of English Literature. The chapter is entitled as Women Novelists of Victorian Era. The Victorian era is known for the galaxy of female novelists that it threw up. It includes Mrs. Trollope, Mrs. Gore, Mrs. Marsh, Mrs. Bray, Mrs. Henrywood, Mrs. Oliphant, Mrs. Linton, and still many more. Now justly forgotten, but the four most important women novelists who yet are quite important are Charlotte Brontë from 1816 to 55, Emily Brontë 1818 to 848, Mrs. Gaskell 1810 to 65, George Eliot from 1819 to 80. Mrs. Gaskell may need some special pleading for being included among the rank of women novelists of the Victorian era, but as for the rest, their place in the history of English literature appear to be secure enough. After these preliminary remarks, let us consider individually the work and achievement of the important women novelists of the Victorian era. The Brontë sisters. The three Brontë sisters, Anne, Charlotte, and Emily, collectively known after as the Stormy Sisterhood, who took the England of their time by storm, were in actual life shy and isolated girls with rather uneventful lives. All of them died young and died of tuberculosis. Charlotte Brontë wrote four novels: The Professor, The Villette, Jane Eyre, and Shirley. The first two novels were based on her personal experiences at a Brazil boarding house where she most probably fell in love with a Belgian scholar. Charlotte Brontë in her novels revolted against the traditions of Jane Austen, Dickens, and Thackeray. Her novels are novels not of manner but of passion and the naked soul. Her characters are mostly the effusion of her own soul. They are elemental figures acting in the backdrop of elemental nature. According to Compton Rickett, the three characteristics of Charlotte Brontë's novels are the note of intimacy, the note of passion, and the note of revolt. We will come to Emily Brontë. Emily Brontë was a poet as well as novelist, and her only novel, Wuthering Heights, is a poem as well as a novel. There is no other book, says Legge, which contains so many of the troubled, tumultuous, and rebellious elements of romanticism. She looks like a Byron in petticoats. The central fact about Emily Brontë is that she is a mystic. Wuthering Heights is a story of primal passions enacted amongst elemental environments. The Brontë sisters imparted the romantic note of imagination and passion to the English novel. They were not interested in the portrayal of social life. Rather, they chose to study the feminine heart and presented the woman's point of view in their fiction. Their forte is characterization and not plot construction. The Brontë sisters poetize the English novel. There are passages that almost border on poetry. Another important contribution of the Brontë sisters is the presentation of the life of Yorkshire and its rich and beautiful nature background. Then we will come to George Eliot. So George Eliot was the most learned of all the women novelists of Victorian period. She stands at the gateway between the old novel and new. She was essentially a novelist of intellectual life, and her psychological insight into human motives and springs of action is deep and profound. Her famous novels are Adam Bickle, Romola, Sailor's Mariner, The Mill on the Floss, Middlemarch. George Eliot is psychological novelist, and she tried to pierce behind the show of things and reveal the forces by which they are controlled. She was a rationalist and philosophical thinker. Even her humor has about it the quality of philosophical reflectiveness. Some of her sentences are quite aphoristic. For example, I quote, "What a man wants in a wife mostly is to make sure of one fool as will tell him he is wise. I unquote. I quote again, animals are such agreeable friends. They ask no questions, they pass no criticism. I unquote. Again I quote, I am not denying the women are foolish. God Almighty made them to match the men. I unquote. Most of the novels of George Eliot are marked by extreme seriousness of purpose and execution. She looks at the world from the woman's point of view. Her heroines are more vividly and convincingly drawn than her heroes. George Eliot's style is lucid and simple, but it develops into reflective and philosophical tone. Her serious concerns with the problems of human personality and its relationship with the forces outside herself. Her detailed interest in psychological analysis of the realms of the inner consciousness did much to determine the future course of English novel. Compton Ricketts says, I quote, she was the first novelist to lay stress wholly upon character rather than incidents, to make her story spiritual rather than physical dramas. I unquote. Then we come to the last novelist that we have to discuss. It is Mrs. Gaskell. Mrs. Gaskell is one of those novelists who used the novel as an instrument of social reform. Her famous novels include Mary Barton, North and South, Cranford, Ruth, Wives and Daughters, and Sylvia's Lovers. She has nothing of the passion and frustration of the Brown sisters. Her sense of humor, her deep social consciousness, and her true observations and the pictures of the Victorian society make her novels readable and valuable. Thus, the woman novelist of Victorian era paved the way for the psychological novel of the modern age. So friends, this was all about the 12th chapter from my series Chapters from the History of English Literature. I hope you will like and again share, and you will finally subscribe my channel. Thanks friends.